Hey, what do you say? We are talking Clemson Rugby again today, but we're doing it Legacy Series style with another legend of the Clemson Rugby pitch, a guy named Mike Fitzgerald. How you doing, Fitz?
I'm phenomenal, man. Thankful for the opportunity. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Is it Dr. Fitz? Do we call you Doc?
No,
Is it
I got
Fitz?
two personas. It's Fitz for most people that know me, and then when I'm serious, I'm known as Dr. Mike to most of the guys I played rugby with. But
Yeah.
for the most part, it's Fitz.
We're gonna go Fitz and Swish, Swish and Fitz tonight.
There we go.
Sounds like a great bar name. Maybe we're onto something already. You never know. Hey, well, this new series, the Legacy Series, it's an opportunity that's presented by the Clemson Rugby Foundation, where, man, we're dredging up some of the legends of the past and listen to their stories. And it's a great way to connect all you old timers with the current guys and kind of just honor the heritage of how Clemson Rugby has been built. And we're going to celebrate the 60th year here in the spring, March 6th, 2027, I believe. So I'm putting it on your calendar because I know you're a busy dude.
Perfect.
Father of three.
Yep.
Level 1 trauma doc, just an overall badass. And I'm going to call it right now, you're better looking than Jim Gain. So we'll just settle that. We'll settle that now. I'll deal with him later.
Yeah.
So
Well, the beard covers the ugly, so I'll take whatever I can get.
it'll look like this in a couple of years if you keep up what you're doing right now, dude.
It's running from the top and it's going on the side. So I mean, we're losing it.
Well, my name is Chris Swisher. For those that haven't heard, I do a lot of the Clemson Rugby matches, live streaming with a guy named Ryan Hayes. Never played rugby. I always have to give it that caveat, the fraud. And I'm even continuing now as I'm drinking a non-Guinness beer out of a Guinness. I mean, what kind of rugby etiquette is that? But well, cheers. This is a fine brew, I will say, since it's the Sun Gazer from Charlestown Fermentory. There we go. You know that well. You're just across the river there, right?
Yep. So across the bridge for 4 years in med school.
Hey, well, why don't we do this? Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Your name, your background, when you played at Clemson. We've covered the nicknames. Maybe you got a couple more that the fellows call you privately, but we'll just stick with Fitz or Dr. Mike for now. But if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
So Mike Fitzgerald, I played at Clemson from 2005 to 2008. During that time, I played under Jim Gain and Wright Henry. I was primarily a second row, but occasionally played 8-man, occasionally played flanker, wherever they needed me. But predominantly, I was number 5, so I was one of your second rows. Helped the team and played with the team for 3 national tournaments. My freshman year, we went to Colorado Springs. Next year, we went out to Cal and got to play on Whitterfield, which was an incredible opportunity. And then my junior year, we played up at Penn State. Unfortunately, never came away with the win, but a lot of great experiences. My junior and senior year, I was captain of the team, which is a great honor. Following Jason Henchman was something that was hard to step into those shoes, but definitely something I looked forward to and took an honor to do. And it was a great 4 years of real hard work and a lot of great time.
We'll add El Capitan to the nickname list for you as well, too, then. Perfect. Listen, before you answer this, just know that Jim Gain said a lot of good things about you, so that we've got you on episode 3. But how was that guy as a coach? He's an intense dude. I've only known him for a little bit of time, but
he's mellowed. I will say he's mellowed. He was my first introduction. So my first semester in college, I unfortunately was coming back from knee injury. Waited until the end of the summer to have surgery. So I showed up on crutches, introduced myself the first day, basically told me to help with drills. Kind of drove myself a little bit crazy watching that and didn't show up to practice afterwards because I just couldn't watch while I was still in crutches and a knee immobilizer. Fast forward to the spring semester, I'm finally healthy enough to play. I show up. First practice, we're handed tires, tire on each shoulder, and we're running perimeter. Now, these were not, normal tires. These were tires that were completely bald. You had metal sticking in you. We probably weren't up to date with our tetanus shots, but that was my first introduction to Jim Gain.
So we're getting a clearer picture of Gain. Every day I do one of these episodes, I'm figuring that guy out. So,
yeah,
okay.
No, he wasn't short, didn't take him long to jump into any practice, any drill, put his shoulder into somebody. I think he actually kind of looked forward to that. I think he was still trying to get his get dirty a little bit. But, he practiced what he preached. He brought intensity. He brought, he studied the game, knew what we needed to do, had great game plans, really elevated the team such that we got to the national tournament those years that we played with him. And I think that first year there was not a close, the only close game was Tennessee in our conference. But he was there day in, day out with an intensity that it was infectious. So, left his soul on that team and did everything he could for us.
It's always interesting to ask the story. How'd you get interested in playing rugby? When did you start playing? Because there's a lot of guys, even the lads today, there's a lot of dudes that have never played before and they just come out. There might be ex-football players or wrestlers But I think you started playing at a younger age, right?
Yeah, no, I was really, really lucky. So I had two older brothers that were playing in St. Louis, Missouri. One was a prop, one was an inside center. It's kind of the nice balance between the two of them. And so in high school in Marshfield, Massachusetts, I was lucky enough to have a team. So I started playing in eighth grade. Played eighth grade, was out freshman year with a knee injury, and then played sophomore, junior, senior year. And so I showed up to Clemson having played 4 years and with some older brothers who had played. So it gave me a huge advantage. I played second row at a lighter weight my first year, and then college finally helped me out with that and put on some weight. But just the knowledge of the game, having the ball skills from basketball and I played football in high school, it carried over, translated great, and just kind of knowing your way in space and where you needed to be probably gave me a great edge that first year to kind of be able to play and make an impact and be able to kind of start my college career.
So from Marshfield, Mass to Clemson, how do we get there?
So before that, I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and so we moved to Massachusetts in seventh grade. Immediately wanted to get the hell out of Massachusetts. I'm not a New Englander. It's not me. My folks are from Missouri. I was born in Ohio. I'm a Midwestern guy at heart, but I lived in Charlotte and had seen Clemson coming down to Carolina Panthers games that first year there in existence, and enjoyed the campus at that point. And then kind of when we were putting things together, I knew I wanted to go to medical school. They had good admittance into medical school, especially MUSC, which I ended up going to. So that was a big plus. And then, not Dr. Gain. Shit, don't call him that. Jim Gain had been the All American coach the year before and had built, was starting to build that program. And so, you know, good chance to get into medical school, good placement there. Check. The rugby team that was good. Check. And so, now way down
Yeah,
and haven't really left since.
I knew it. A good Midwestern connection. Good old Ohio and Indiana guys here. I'm telling you, Fitz and Swish and Fitz. I'm gonna let the creative branding juices work tonight. We may have to put something together. Hey, so tell me this. So when you hear the terms Clemson rugby, what immediately comes to mind, or what do you think about?
It's a huge part of my life. It's part of my identity. I wear a Clemson scrub cap in the operating room. All my residents know I played rugby. You walk into my office, I've got my jersey hanging on the wall next to my Clemson diploma. It's lifelong friends. It's guys you pick up the phone after you haven't talked to in a year and see how they're doing. And hey, I'm going to be in town. You want to grab a beer? It's guys you call for advice. Was in the middle of making a big career decision recently and called one of my former teammates and said, "Hey, man, do these numbers make sense to you?" And he's like, no, that's all I had to hear, like, just to get his
Yeah,
his business opinion on it. I'm a doctor, I don't do numbers, and so just talking to somebody who had a little bit more business sense kinda gave me that peace of mind, gave my wife the peace of mind who knew him, but I mean, these are guys that I'm in group chats with. I drop anything I can to catch up with them, grab a beer. When you reach out with this opportunity to starting to go through the memories or trying to look through pictures or anything like that, it just brings back this whole just very, very important part of your life. My wife was looking at wedding pictures and there was 15 ruggers at my wedding. So
really.
yeah, we had 15 guys that I played with or, Gain was there, Wright Henry was there, Wymie was there. So some old guys were there as well. I'm honestly surprised Sean Hannah didn't try to crash the wedding, but I think it's a drive from Anderson to Charleston.
I got to know Hannah. That guy's a trip. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
him.
He's got a story
He's
for everything.
he's a funny bloke. What about this? So you met your wife at college, and so she knows all the exploits of the rugby boys,
Yep.
and you were able to keep her around and
Shockingly.
trick her
Shockingly.
into marrying you.
Yeah.
And now you've got three beautiful kids, and so maybe talk about her perspective of the rugby boys. I know what you all think about each other, but what's her take on
Well, based
Clemson
on her
rugby?
experience with the Ruggers, I knew she was gonna be a great mother just because she was able to take care of all of us and keep us alive for that many years. So, I mean, 15
Life
guys on a
support.
team, 22 on the starting side. She kept all those guys alive. I think there was one time we had an off weekend. I went out to just a guys drinking a keg in a field, lighting Christmas trees on fire, and fell into a fire. She promptly got a phone call that I lit myself on fire. And when she showed up, one of my former teammates, Wayne Bassett, showed up with a beer for her, a beer for him. He said, "Just take a deep breath. He's fine." And she sat there, had a beer, and then made sure we stopped at Jack in the Box on the way home. So
What a woman.
she
Buy the ring immediately.
she leaned into it, and she loves all of them as much as I love them. They love her probably more than they love me. When she calls out their middle names, they know they're in trouble, just like my kids do.
Yep.
But I mean, she saw us from the beginning, all of us, and we laugh at times about we just got interviewed by the FBI for Michael Stewart's security clearance, or Ben Wellens, or somebody else, or that so and so's now. It's just She's watched us grow up, and I think she got a kick out of being on the periphery of the riffraff, although she leaned into it sometimes as well. But was a lot more graceful when she did it than we did.
Well, I think it's probably safe to say that we've all outkicked our own coverages, right? For most parts.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, talk about some of those. Like, what made for you Clemson rugby different than any other sport that you've ever played?
It was just the guys camaraderie. It was the leaning into it and doing the hard work with each other, but also going out and having a good time afterwards. We knew that practice we had to show up at practice and do what we needed to do, but then at the end of the day, we were still able to go out and have fun, holding each other accountable, and going the extra mile for each other. The semester I was out with a knee injury, I was unable to play. And so I pledged a fraternity, and that was very eye opening because it wasn't guys that you were earning a relationship with. It was the guys you were paying for a relationship with just because
Yeah.
you pledged the same thing. You had no common core values. You had nothing that you're working towards. And so that was something that was eye opening after I unceremoniously tackled a brother and tore his ACL, and then was gracefully released from my pledge. Got back into rugby and righted the ship. And I think it just shows you that guys that you're willing to get dirty with, guys you're willing to put the hard work in, are guys that you're going to have lasting friendships with, and guys that are going to stick with you.
Maybe that dude should have been a little tougher in your fraternity house. So what what are some of the names of the nicknames and the names of your buddies that you slugged it out with over the years?
So,
I love the nicknames, so let's go with those.
well, so the funny thing is, some of these guys' nicknames were not really their last names were quite great names. So Jason Henchman was his name. We called him Hinch for short, but I mean his damn name was Henchman. He was our hooker and captain my first 2 years.
That's a filthy name for a hooker too. I love it.
It was incredible. Dutch Jones, who just went by Dutch, he was our scrum half. He was the first All-American on the team. That guy was just an absolute animal. He was everywhere on the pitch, fearless, had no problem.
Was he a cheeky lad?
I would say as a cheeky lad. I think he would constitute as one of those.
Okay.
But he was just an incredible guy. Our inside center, Mike Irishson, but also known as Irish,
Okay.
was
Makes sense.
as a guy who's not Irish, but because of his last name, he was called Irish.
He might have drank beers like an Irishman though.
He could. He put him down, but he also put bodies down. He was probably one of the hardest guys to tackle in practice. I think he ruptured one of our former alumni's bicep in a practice one time when the guy tried to get low and took a knee right to his bicep, and that thing curled up real quick. We had Scotty Too Hottie. Scotty was our 8-man, who I've never seen a man use a stiff arm to move himself away from a patient as opposed to push a patient or not patient, a player. Jesus Christ, look at my mind. Put a player over, so he would pretty much leave stiff arm and travel as opposed to move his opponent. Then we had let's see, Luke DiMaggio, who just went by DiMaggio, was a phenomenal fullback. Came in, now a lawyer, which is always interesting. But he was just deceivingly fast and shifty. I think of anybody else we had that were good nicknames. Nothing's really coming to mind, but those are some of the guys who had great names, or just guys who really stood out in terms of their play.
So you graduated in '08. iPhones came out when, like, 09-ish, 010 maybe?
I want to say the first iPhone came out in 2010. Yeah, I forgot a nickname, and I would be remiss to not mention this one. Ben Wellens, also known as Broadway, from New York. However, sung so beautifully, he should have been on Broadway in a musical.
Voice of an angel.
Voice of multiple angels. He would make sure we were in line with all the songs, made sure we were right pitch. We had one season we were all in on Kelly Clarkson, and he kind of brought that on for us to make sure that we really knew how to hit those notes.
Underrated. Did he have range? Could he get the high notes?
Phenomenal range. And he did it with gusto. It was, he was charismatic as all get out.
Sounds like a beautiful man.
No, he is. He should be on this series.
Well, hey, I'm gonna take some names down after this, and we'll get him lined up. I just start when I hear those nicknames and I know those stories are boiling in the back of your head. I'm thinking, thank God that the iPhones run around when you guys were in college, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we used to have what was web shots. You could load the photos up to the website, and that was probably the most damning thing any of us could have done, is load some of those pictures. Then they became the Facebook pictures as well. And as we started to become professionals, we realized we probably should take some of those pictures down.
Yeah, might be a little damning. So talking about being professional, the rugby pitch had to teach you quite a bit about handling traumas scenarios. It's a level one. You spent time, you said, in Memphis, which is a busy trauma area. Then now you're in Columbia. So are there some parallels or some lessons that you have taken from the pitch into how you handle some pretty hectic situations in an OR room?
Absolutely. The closest my adrenaline ever got to stepping on a pitch is when I step into either a trauma bay or an operating room. And going into medicine, I never thought that it would translate. I
Mhm.
remember sitting down with the chair at MUSD when I was preparing my application for residency, and he saw what I had done in medical school. He goes, "Yeah, that's all good and all, but like, what did you do in college?" And I was like, "Oh, I played rugby. We went to 3 national tournaments. I was a captain." He goes, "Why is none of this in your CV?" And I said, "Well, that's not medicine." He goes, "That's the most important part of your application." He goes, "That shows me you can show up to practice. You can show up for your teammates. Shows me that you got to stick to it." And this, he's like, "That needs to be everything you focus on your interviews." And it completely
Wow.
blew my mind, and the fact that I hadn't thought about that. But I mean, now that's one of my biggest things when I recruit guys to either come to fellowship or to be one of my partners or residency is, did you play team sports? Were you part of a team? Were you anything like that where somebody, you have to lean on somebody, they have to lean on you, and you got to work together. And some people are bringing their A game some days and some people aren't. But I mean, that is now, I mean, I look at some of my partners. I got a guy who played D3 basketball. I got a guy who played D3 lacrosse and hockey at the same school. We played 2 sports, but I mean, it kinda carries over into trauma tremendously, whether it's in the trauma bay and you're doing what you need to do and you need to lean on the nurses to get the IVs, or somebody who's doing the head of bed covering, getting the airway in, or people pulling the blood for you, or when you get in the OR, relying on anesthesia to make sure they're keeping the person alive while you're trying to stop what's going on. Or when we get them out of the OR and you get to the ICU and you're rounding and trying to figure out what meds they need to be on and leaning on a pharmacist. It's everything I learned on the pitch, I put into work every day in terms of keeping a level head when things aren't going the way you want to, picking yourself back up, just giving it your best, and then also leaning on the people that are experts in their field. You know, I can't kick for goal for shit, but I knew I had guys that could. I knew guys who could
Yeah.
touch. I knew what my job was, and I did it well, and they did their jobs well, and that's why we had success.
Greatest team sport I've ever watched. It's just brilliant. It's taken me, man, 5, 6 years to really understand it. I'm getting closer to understanding a lot of the more the nuances. But at the end of the day, man, you've got to do your job. You all have roles. I love that each number on the back of the kit has a role. But that big part of accountability, man, if your guy on the other side of the scrum's not doing his job, you're not winning, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, call me old school. Seeing some, I don't know if it's just in sevens or it's in 15s now with these guys who don't have numbers corresponding to their positions, kind of throws me for a loop.
yeah, just Evans.
Yeah. But I mean, I think, yeah, trusting the guy to my left and my right are going to make the tackle. Or they're going to support me. Or when I make the break, they're coming with me, and you're not going out on your own. Those are lessons you learn. In rugby that you have to lean on in your professional career.
Yeah, man, you touch a sore spot with me every time I get a lineup for even Clemson, and I know the boys pretty well, but when it's LSU or Tennessee or whomever, and those big boys start flipping jerseys around for whatever reason, it just wrecks my live streams and it makes me a grumpier old man than I already am. So, was there ever a moment? It's fun to talk about the brotherhood, all the lessons in life, and that you take in a professional world. But was there ever a time when you doubted rugby, when you thought about quitting or walking away?
I mean, after my knee surgery, before I could even start playing my freshman year, it was a dark time for me. Period. I wasn't doing well in school. Didn't really have a community. Didn't have support. Went home. I want to say a fall break that year, and told my mom, I'm staying. I'm not going back. She said, "You are. We already paid for your tuition. You're going back." And so went back.
That a girl, mom.
Yeah, and struggled a little bit, but I mean, as soon as I got back that second semester, I mean, I met my wife that first class. I stepped in, sat behind her in English class, and then immediately went to practice and met these guys that are now, with me 20 some odd years later, 22 years later. So it quickly changed there. But then we had a big drop off my senior year in terms of just performance. And I was the captain. We had done a great job the year before, made it to nationals. Thought we were going to continue to build what we had been building, and we just couldn't get it going. And I couldn't figure out what it was. Was it my leadership style? Was it I was too intense? Was I losing it on people? Like what was I doing wrong? I remember at the time I took it to Wright Henry, who was our coach. And I was like, I'm not having fun anymore, man. Like I'm
Yeah.
struggling. And I wasn't sure if it was the captaincy or what it was, but we played around with a few things, naming a game day captain. I still did a lot of the leadership stuff, but game day I was not responsible for talking to Sir. I was more responsible for taking care of some other stuff. Broadway. Ben Wellen stepped up to be the game day captain at times. But that was a trying year just because we had some great players in a lot of positions, but we lacked depth and in some of those key. We just didn't have a strong front row, so our set pieces weren't solid. We couldn't really get the ball out clean. Ball was coming out slop to the backs, and we just could never really get moving forward on our that season. And that was hard. I mean, going from playing in 3 national tournaments to not making it and just having a losing record was pretty defeating. You know, learned a lot that year, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about what it takes to be a true leader. But at the same point, definitely did question it like, why am I coming out here every day? I've already gotten into medical school. This is my last semester, but just leaned in for the guys and just tried to help out. And then I think a few years after that, we were in the transition of coaches and was lucky enough to be able to help coach them as they're kind of coming back up. And right before Justin Hickey got there, and that was a great experience just to be able to be in medical school. But I was on the away rotation up in Westminster and was able to stay in Clemson and help coach the guys as much as I could and helped them at I guess it was Palmetto that year, what union we were in, but was able to help coach them and just kind of see that sticking to it, kind of shedding that example that year kind of led through. And some of those guys who had been freshmen kind of stuck with it and held on to help kind of rebuild the program.
That's where the heritage and the culture of a program sustains some of those tough years and those down years, right?
Hmm.
And I think it's good for, hopefully the current guys that are on the squad, when hopefully they're going to watch and listen to this and part of it is learning. Like they're not the only guys that have gone through it. Right.
Right.
And who knows then maybe some guys will pick up the phone and call you old legends and you can help talk them through it. Like think about the best moral of that story. What I heard is that mother knows best, right? Mom got your ass back out there. And had you not done it, and maybe you don't meet your wife, you don't play rugby, you don't have these lifelong friends. And so a lot of good to take out of
Right.
that scenario there.
No, I mean, there's so many what ifs if I don't go back, and then there's so many what ifs if I don't lean into it my senior year. But I wouldn't, looking back, those hard decisions are what make you.
Best of all, had you not listened to your mother, you would have been in a deeper pile of shit than than what you had ever known. So,
Sure.
what are maybe looking back some of the best memories, whether they were team memories or personal memories on and off the pitch? I know that's a big question. That's a lot to consider, but there's got to be a few that just really, and they didn't have to be big wins or big scores or anything like that. Well, what really sticks in your mind when you look back fondly?
Yeah, I think that first year getting to a national tournament was an eye-opening realization that we could compete on a national level, that we were good. We had played teams in the South and beat them pretty handily, that we didn't really have much competition. And then we got there and kind of saw what the big stage looked like, knowing that we needed to set ourselves up the next year. The next year we went in all motivated, beat Tennessee at home to win the South. That was huge. And then that led us to going out to Cal, playing one of the most, historic rugby pitches you could ever step foot on. That will forever be etched in my mind. Being able to have that opportunity to play at Cal.
That's a big trip. You guys have probably never traveled that far anywhere.
I mean, our alumni came up huge those years. I mean, we traveled to Colorado Springs the year before. We traveled to Cal. I want to say one of the years we went out to Arizona for a fall break where we went to Arizona State. Like we made huge trips, and every time the call was put out for the alumni, they always stepped up in funding. It was incredible to fly a whole entire team out there, get out to Cal. When we got out there, Will Phillips, one of the other alumni who actually ended up playing with in Charleston with the Outlaws, he hosted us one of the days when we were in California, just completely opened up his house. And I think his parents' house, since I think he was still living in Charleston at the point. But, just really guys stepping up, going above and beyond the alumni who traveled to see those games, who stepped up and said thank you
Yep.
for the support. Like those will always be incredible memories. Playing at Penn State, just all the games you remember, but then it's the late nights, the shooting the shit, it's the making terrible decisions, the deck in the back of my house collapsing because we had too many people singing the song on it. And then in our engineering minds, we put 2 kegs underneath it because in the event it completely went, we would have some time for people to get off. It's having a hydrogen
It's
case
just
in your
those
factory.
smart Clemson kids,
Oh
man.
yeah, those engineers,
Thinking,
those engineers.
thinking it through.
But we hosted the Highland Games one year where we threw K bars and keg tosses and all that stuff. Just
Did you wear the kilts?
they may have been women's dresses that we cut short to look like kilts because we were broke, but we in our minds they were kilts.
My kid was one of the social chairs last year, or he was the social chair. So I'm glad he's not going to see this now because that may make the list this upcoming year. So we'll see. I don't know.
It was a great one. We ended up dragging a huge ass tree and just burning it from both ends that whole entire night. And when we left that house at 22-1 Arrowhead right behind Central High School, the property manager called me like, "What the hell are you doing with this tree? You can't just leave that in the backyard." So again, I had to borrow Wright Henry's chainsaw and cut it up and throw it in the creek behind the house.
Again, good thing the iPhones were not a thing yet, right? So
Exact.
you don't want that evidence on camera. I know you guys spent some time at Backstreets.
Yeah, yeah, no, we were Backstreets is our home away from home, and we were
It still is for the boys.
but back then we also had overtimes, which is downstairs where you had to be a private member. And I did purchase a private membership, and now I don't get the fruits of that because they're now all one bar. But no, many a night at
Oh, was it like a
Backstreets.
speakeasy?
What's up?
Was it like a speakeasy?
Well, back then there's only two bars that were open past midnight on Saturdays, and so you either had OTs, which was
Preposterous.
yep. So that was and before that, I don't know if you heard the story that it used to be a mini bottle town. Or I guess I don't even know if it was the whole state mini bottles, but
I think it might have been the whole state.
every drink you ordered had to come out of a mini bottle. And that ended in 2006. And then OTs in top of the tavern, the top of Tiger Town Tavern were the only two places you go after midnight on Saturday. So usually we'd leave either Bad Apple or wherever, whoever was working a bar, we'd run down the Kangaroo, grab our 24 pack for Sunday fun day, and then head up to OTs until we got kicked out. But no, yeah, that was where half the guys were bouncers or things like that, and where we made the vast majority of our core decisions. It was always very comforting to be able to look up at the top of back streets and see the huge Clemson banner that sits there above the pool table.
Yeah, still there.
Jimmy was talking about that in the first episode. Every time I walk in that bar, I always look up and just remind myself where I'm at. We're
Yeah.
at home.
Last couple of years, it's been fun watching the guys look like they're in a line out, putting the Palmetto Cup back up top. It's brilliant. That thing may or not have come to this house over that spring break, and I don't know what kind of fine ale was swishing around in there, but it was delicious. The yeah, my wife and I spent a 21st birthday with our oldest that's up there at Backstreets. It was pretty good. So it's just like all these stories start to come together, and you start thinking back. Or I watch you, I can see your head moving, and I can see you thinking about all these old stories. And I've been around the place enough just to understand like how special it is, and it's pretty fun to hear these good old stories, man. What could you tell the young guys now? Like if you're the sage, wise old man, and telling the guys that are playing now, it's still a player-led club. Troy Hall, I think you've met Troy. Troy Hall's done a phenomenal job. We've got a new coach for forwards and defense, so Troy can do his wizardry in the backfield. He's got another set of eyes. Greg Blinson's doing a good job with the foundation that Gain started up, and we're trying to get, more engagement and more excitement. We're live streaming the games. Hard to get kids into Clemson, so the recruiting efforts are a little tough, but if you can get into Clemson and you want to play some rugby, how would you not fall in love with the place? Why would you ever want to look anywhere else? So
Yeah, I mean, for the current team, just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy those practices, and enjoy just getting dirty with you guys and putting in that work, because pretty soon you're going to have to carve out time to do any type of exercise or work, that you sometimes can take for granted, whether it's the running or the weight training, whatever it is. Just enjoy it, because pretty soon you'll be waking up at 4 a.m. trying to get it in before one of your babies starts crying. Enjoy those.
I think that's called being an adult, and that sucks. So I tell all those boys, there's no rush to be an adult
Yeah.
right now, right?
No,
So
I
your
mean,
point.
and then just leave you guys, those guys are going to be there with you for the next 20 years, hopefully even longer than that. Support them and support each other as you're working through everything, whether it's moving to different cities or career paths or what have you. But I mean, I think it's just buying in, setting a good example for the freshmen that are coming in, leaving it out on the pitch. Don't leave anything left in the tank. At the same point, I mean, Clemson rugby's grown so much and they've had so much success, that you're allowed to have an off year. You're allowed to take a step back, not from an effort standpoint, but people are going to have down years. People are going to have letdowns, and we're spoiled as alumni now. When I see it, I'm like, all right, yeah, we're in the premier division. All right, where are we at in this game? Like,
Yeah.
who we winning, who we beat, what's going on? But I mean, there's always going to be critics. There's always going to be people who tell you back in the day when they played, they were they were so much better, they would beat your ass, which I wanna say Air
That's
Force.
some old man
Yeah,
stuff. That's old man chatter.
that used to drive me crazy as a player when the alumni would come back, but I think it's just kinda part of the dues you pay to play the sport.
I just saw my old man. He's 85. Went back for the Indy 500 for the weekend, and he smacks his arm and still thinks he's got blue steel in there, and thinks he could. He reminds me he could still whip my ass, which is always so. That's the inalienable right of a Clemson rugby alumni legend to stake those claims. You guys have earned your stripes, right? These young dudes haven't done it yet. So you watched a few of the games, right?
Yep. I was down in Columbia in '24 when the Palmetto Cup came home. Actually,
Yep.
guys were nice enough to let me and my son take a picture with it, which was awesome. But yeah, me and Gain and it was awesome. It was incredible to sit there and be able to watch that.
That one felt real good.
Yeah.
Like when you watch the style of Clemson rugby today, so it's what, almost 20 years. Yeah, it's 20 years ish since you played. Is the style of rugby the same? Is it different?
I
What do you
mean,
notice? Yeah, what do you think's the biggest difference?
I would say you can see the ball handling of the forwards is changed because of sevens. I would say everyone's probably a little bit more dynamic than they were back in the day. We usually had probably about four guys in the forwards who were allowed to handle the ball, just kind of in a fluid system moving through. And if somebody else ended up with it, you were trying to get on their hip. But I think, any player now has the ball handling skills and the ability to kind of to make a move, make a play, offload and contact, stuff like that. We had certain guys like, you really shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah,
And I think there's a lot more, just kinda open play, a little bit more ad-libbing going on. But I think, the fundamentals are sound. I think the passing sound I think it's just the game is maturing just overall in the country as opposed to what it was
which is
20 years
great.
ago, which is
Yeah,
huge
which is
for us.
great.
Yeah, I think set
I'd
pieces
also
still
say, I'm
set pieces
sorry.
are a little bit no, you're good. Set pieces are kind of a little bit different now. It's not as trying to just impose your will, it's just trying to get the ball back and control a little bit different.
Hmm.
It makes sense in terms of contact and stuff like that. Works a lot better, honestly, and probably saves your engine for the rest of the game. But no, I think the skill level as a whole is superior to what we had.
Yeah, I was going to say also too there's a bigger emphasis on fitness. Troy's a big fitness guy. That dude is the most fit guy on either team. Every time that guy's on the pitch, he's an absolute muscle. He's a
Yeah.
unit.
No, I
But like you've
watched
got,
them do their Broncos, and I don't think I'd ever want to try to do a Bronco.
it looks miserable, absolutely miserable. I'll say that we got guys like in the pack. Noah Ainsworth is our number two, our hooker. That dude played sevens this year, and he was an animal.
Yep.
And John Archie Diacono, Big Arch, that guy, he's a monster as well too. So just the athleticism of some of the guys you got up in the pack, and obviously all the backs, the pretty boys, the fast ones, doing a lot of jukey moves and taking it down. But I've always been like like American football. I've always been a big fan of the offensive line, and that's kind of translates into the pack
Oh yeah.
a little bit. That's where it all kind of happens. So.
Yeah. No, I made decent headway in the lineouts with getting up there and getting it, and try to be an engine as a second row, but also enjoy trying to insert myself when I didn't necessarily need to in the back row, so I could act like a pretty boy. But didn't want to have
That's
it, but
good. Well, you got you dotted a few down over the try line in your day.
I did, I
You
did.
got the you got the Zulu knocked out of the way.
Yeah, yeah. Zulu is
Okay.
interesting. Experience that weekend was my first start as a freshman. We played Georgia. I think we won 64-3. I had three tries. The nerve-wracking part was one of my teammates was detained the night before, and I had been with him. So Coach Gang got a call that morning to help out with that situation, and then I was just waiting for God, what's going to happen when I get on the bus to get down to Athens. And he just shook his head, just told me to get in the back of the bus, and we'd deal with it later. Finished the game. I looked and he was like, "So are you running, or what are you going to do?" All right, I guess he doesn't hate me now, so I guess I'll make that. But talking about an intense man who had made me basically carry tires around perimeter, and then has to help get one of our buddies out of a situation, and then show up. That was went a lot better than I anticipated.
See, big softy, big sweetheart after all, right?
I think all girls softened him up.
Hey, let's one thing I always like to end with a question, it's the fun one. The rugby songs, the chants, if you hear somebody yell a certain something out in a crowd, you automatically know that's one of your boys. Is there anything that you can share that you just loved or you miss? And again, pre-iPhone days is probably a good thing. So.
Yeah, no, we were. we were a big song team. Pride Days of the Week was our favorite. Certain
Yeah.
certain teammates had preferred days that they like to yell out, so I tried to make it a group effort. Old Chicago may have been a little bit rough for folks in Clemson, especially some of the religious types. So we tried to stay away from that one. Yogi Bear was always a good one, but certain guys always had what they were going to use, their lines they're going to use. But yeah, there was a guy who was known for playing a little bit of defense, so he was known as C Block Teddy, and so that was a Yogi song. He's now a professor someplace, so we'll leave that at that. But no, I think the that carried over when I was in med school. Some of us would get together down in Charleston, and some of my med student classmates ended up learning the songs and really, really enjoyed the days of the week, such that somebody asked us to sing it at their wedding,
Boy.
which
Well,
in hindsight probably wasn't a great idea, but we did it.
I when Gain told me about it, I never heard of it, and I hung up on the interview, and I went out and asked my boys, and they're like, mm-mm, I told Gain, you'd be proud that the lads held steady, and he said it's the first rule of Clemson rugby. So to keep it in house, baby.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean there's certain things that we will do, and there's certain things that we try to avoid.
Yeah.
I think it's more self preservation than anything.
Well, you guys have certainly built a tremendous culture all over all of these years, culminating in the 60th. I think the idea is to have the Indiana Hoosiers come play in March, which would be a big one. I mean, they had a big
Yeah,
year nationally, both for 15s and 7s, but we'll have the alumni match. The schedule this year is packed, man. Lots of the formatting of the SEC rugby is changing. They're going to go to more of a Six Nations style, like a points table instead of playoff, which is kind of cool. A lot of good rugby playing here in the Southeast, and so Clemson will play everybody in the league, and then they'll go into the nationals, and then we just finished up with a really strong run in the 7s playing up a division. And so, I mean, Troy Hall's got the boys clicking. Great fundamentals, the passing and the catching, the tackling, the running, fitness levels. I mean, they're looking good. So it's looking to be a really promising season. So I know with 3 kids and a busy OR trauma level 1 center, getting you away from that joint might be tough, but we got to import you back up to Clemson, my man.
yeah. Now we're further enough out that I can get that on the schedule. I was there for the 50th, and it was an incredible time.
Good.
Yeah, that was just a phenomenal weekend, and it's shocking that it's already going to be another 10 years. Getting old quick.
That means you're getting a lot older,
Yeah,
a lot faster.
yeah, yeah. You keep on saying old guys. I'm like, I'm not old. I'm only 25. I can still step out on the pitch. I think I probably got one more year of eligibility left.
You would probably be able to destroy those guys out there.
Yeah.
You still got it, Doc. You still got it. Hey, well, any parting words? We're going to close up here, but any parting words just for Clemson rugby in general, what it's meant to you in your life, and
No. I mean, can't thank Clemson Rugby, the alumni, the CRF, everything. They built me to the man I am. Whether it was as my teammates, my best friends teach me the work ethic, anything like that. Like seriously, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for Clemson Rugby. Those relationships,
great.
those that basically just grinded out mentality and the discipline it took to get through, undergrad and carry GPA to get into med school, but also that focus of I gotta get my shit done so I can get to the pitch because these guys are relying on me. I didn't want to let anybody down, but same point when you're having fun, you don't want to miss out on anything. So I think it truly is basically one of the backbones of who I am and defines me. I still wear my Clemson Rugby stuff with pride. I actually told my wife the other day I need a Clemson Rugby sticker for the back of my truck. I still wear my pullovers that have Clemson Rugby. I bring my kit bag to the gym. Actually got approached by a guy that plays for Columbia recently and asked if I still play. And I was like, I haven't played in about 6 years. But no, it was a tremendous part of my life and hope to get back into it as these kids get a little bit older and I got a little bit more time. But it's been an honor. It's been a privilege, and I can't imagine my life without it.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your time. You and I have not met until tonight, and it's been great just the pre-chat and getting to know you a little bit better. Can't wait to meet you in person when you get back to Clemson in the fall. But you're exactly why we're doing what we're doing right now, is trying to connect the older generations. We're going to talk to every decade. We're going to find someone in the late 60s. Might be tough.
Yeah.
Might be tough, but I know we were already talked to Rick Clanton in the 70s, but we're going to hit every decade and some of these younger guys, but connecting the older regime with the newer and really building that bond to sustain for the next 60 years and beyond. So I really appreciate it. And maybe we'll get some of these young guys to, if they want to pursue a career in medicine, maybe we'll give them a number and have them reach out and you can let them know what it means to you. So
Absolutely. My email, my phone number, whatever they need, whatever they want. We're just down in Columbia, happy to help, whether it's shadowing or just tell them what the path looks like, what you need to do, or anything in between. We're happy to help, and yeah, we'll hopefully be up there with the family in March, and then whenever they come down to Columbia for whether it's 7s or 15s, we try to be there. We're just a stone's throw away from watching them play, so we'll look forward to it.
it's going to be a tough one. I think it's Halloween night this fall. I know.
That's unfortunate.
I know. But you'll be able to watch it on a world-class broadcast if you want. Just saying. So, all right. Hey, well, for the Clemson Rugby Foundation, again, this is Chris Swisher with the Clemson Rugby Legacy Series. And tonight we've had the absolute pleasure to talk to legend Mike Fitz, Dr. Mike Fitzgerald. So thanks again, Doc. We'll look forward to catching back up with you. And we'll be back with episode 4 coming up real soon. All right. You guys stay handsome. And let's go Tigers.
Go Tigers.